Hey everyone, this is Faith Gray with Lone Star Baptist Church. You're watching our new segment with our podcast called Just Add Water. Let's get into our first episode. Without further ado, our first episode of Just Add Water, I thought would make sense if we had our pastor, Brother Homer Branscum, on with us. So the first thing I think we should talk about is just the name of the podcast. Because I meant to do a funny video for the church Facebook page where I asked everybody what a funny name for a podcast would be. And I never got the video put together. But what was the one you said?
Just Add Water.
Yes. And so I was like, that makes so much sense and it sounds so good. So I made a little mock-up of like the logo. And I was like, we should totally really do this. So where did you get Just Add Water from?
Well, of course, water is such an intricate part of life. I mean, we have to have water to drink. Water is, is the central part of everything. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and earth, He created all that stuff. Water was such an important part of it. But my true inspiration, is from John 4, where Jesus goes to talk at Sychar to meet with a lady from Samaria who was coming in the middle of the day to draw water because of her lifestyle. She had chose to go to the well during the heat of the day, because everybody else drew it early in the morning, so it'd be in the cool of the day. But she went there. We debate and talk about all the reasons for that, but she didn't want to go around and be around all the other people and the persecution and things she's going to have. So she went up by herself, and there was a guy there, and that was Jesus. And of course, he was talking about other things, and he asked her for water, and she said, "Why are you even talking to me?" and all that kind of stuff. And he mentions, the water that he had.
Right.
She'd never thirst again.
Right.
Well, she was all, what kind of water is that? She got in on that.
Give me some of that water.
and then he shared with her, and she became a believer. She trusted him as the Savior. And so that water has just always been something that's touched my heart, because it's something that is really simple. Salvation's simple. You have a plant at home and it's not doing well, you just add water to it.
Right.
You and I are hot and thirsty. Add water. We get a drink. And so water is just a special thing, I think.
I was about to say, I like how simple the name is, because one of my favorite things that you talk about in your sermons on Sunday is how simple Christianity really is and salvation really is. And I love, Zach and I will tell our youth all the time, because they ask so many questions about, well, what if my friend says this, or what if they say this? And we are constantly reminding them, the Bible doesn't need you to defend it. The Bible defends itself. Yep. And our job is not to convince other people to become Christians, because if we convince them, somebody else can convince them out of it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I just, it's so simple to be a Christian. You just live your life with Jesus, and the Holy Spirit will do the work. Yeah. Everybody will see it. And so I just, just add water, just add Jesus. Yeah. I love it. But it was, it was interesting when you first said it, because I was like, I wonder where that came from. So originally we were going to do this in October, and I was really excited to talk about how October was Mental Health Awareness Month, but things didn't happen in October. So November is life happened. November is actually Military Family Awareness Month, which is an interesting, not just military awareness, but their families. Yeah. I think it's cool that they have a whole month, but I hate that it's not mentioned. I didn't know that until I looked up what is November celebrated for. So I guess let's just spend some time talking about them, because, we had Veterans Day earlier this month. What are some of the hardships that you think those families as a whole go through? Because I know we have several people in our church that either have been through that in the past or are still going through that. We have some youth that have had a dad that was in the military.
Well, I know from myself, I love that includes the family. Yes. I mean, we're always quick to pray for our soldiers and those that defend our nation, and we should, but we sometimes forget about the families. And as far as me and the pastor, I don't always get to help out with the soldiers directly,
right? But
the families that are left behind, that are facing, their loved ones not here, whether it's the mom or the dad, they don't get to see them. Maybe with today's technology, so I don't want to say better. It's different because we have FaceTime,
right?
Videos and all that kind of stuff where the parents can interact with the children to a degree. But it's not the same as having in present.
Definitely not.
But I like the thought of that, including the family, because our families, they're holding things together. Especially say it's a dad that's overseas. The mom's at home. She's trying to be mom and dad and trying to incorporate and all that kind of stuff. So it's a struggle for them as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the mom won't share with the husband some of the detailed problems because she doesn't want him to be distracted.
That's a good point. Right.
She wants him to stay safe. Don't worry about this over here. I've got this. You stay focused on your task and stay safe and come home.
That's a good point.
And so moms tend, and dads, if it's the roles are reversed, it's the mom's over serving and the dad's left at home to do all that. You know, a lot of times they don't get in on all the details of home life simply because they don't want to be distracted.
Right.
But our families that are at home, I think, need our prayers and need our support from a church standpoint, from a Christian standpoint, whether we just befriend them, come alongside them and befriend them, or whether we can help them out in any other capacity, in any other way that we can.
Yeah. I have a friend that I graduated with that is a military spouse.
Yeah.
And so that has really opened my eyes because, they don't get to see their people all the time, but like her husband just will all of a sudden, like he'll be at work and then one day he comes home and he's like, I got 24 hours and I'm gone. Yeah. And they don't get to prepare for that. Or like the amount of times that they've missed their anniversaries or birthdays, or like when she's graduating college, it's like, is he even going to be there for that? Like when you know somebody, you really see all the things they really go through. And even just like I tell her all the time, I have so much respect for her because she's like the almost like the man of the house sometimes, because she most of the times you think of, something happened with like the hardware in the house or something and tell the husband, you got to figure out how to fix that, but he's not home. Like the amount of times that she's like, well, I fixed a dryer today, or, and I'm just like the fact that which the kind of person she is, she probably would do that anyways, but she, just the ways that her life is different because she will have to just be on her own, and even just being independent. Yeah. Like I could not live alone for that long. I would go insane.
You mentioned something there that I know from a man standpoint, if the roles reversed, I was in the military and I was off, and Amy Lynn was telling me that she had to fix this, that, and the other, I'd feel like I was neglecting my family because that's what I do. That's my job. I'm supposed to take care of that stuff. So I'm supposed to fix that stuff, And so there's just a whole lot of increasing problems, or a lot of problems with our military that serve because they feel obligated to the country, defend our country. They're patriotic. They want to fight for our freedoms and the security for their children, but at the same time, they want to be at home taking care of being hands-on, taking care of the family. Right. They don't get that opportunity all the time. So there's just tremendous amount of struggles that I don't think we always think about. We just think about separation, but there's a lot of the detailed stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's nice that I don't think you can ever have too much thanks for the soldiers for serving. Like it's never going to be like, oh, they're thanked enough.
I agree.
But I also don't think we talk about, yes, the soldiers sacrifice a lot for us, but like the spouses sacrifice their spouse. Yeah. Like it's not just, I love America, but I don't know that I would be like, yeah, you can have my husband, for like, absolutely not.
2 years, 5 years, whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Or like their kids, like kids are sacrificing their dad, their mom, and I just think that that's crazy. So you mentioned how we can help them, coming alongside them, being their friend. Let's just talk about like some of the things they do to help us that we maybe don't think about. Because I know when we say, what do the soldiers do for us? We automatically think, oh, well, our freedom. Mm-hmm. But like, what does that really mean? Like some of the things that we take for granted.
Well, I'm not a world traveler by no means. I've been to some other countries, but I've seen enough and heard enough to know that we in this country are very, very blessed. The fact that we can sit here in the youth room at our church and do this, that's a freedom that they don't get to do in a lot of countries. Yep. They don't have that access, to the internet and to technologies, but then if they do have access, they sometimes can't do those things.
Right.
And so just the little things of being able to go to the supermarket when we choose to be able to buy what we want, not just picking from what's on the shelf and available to us.
Right.
We get to pretty much choose what we want. And
be picky about it. Like we don't have the brand we want, so we can go somewhere else.
Exactly. And a lot of countries and a lot of places don't have that. And
we probably sound so like stuck up to those other countries,
We are so spoiled in this country.
Like they don't have my brand of noodles, and everybody else is like, I'll take whatever brand of noodles are there.
I was watching a podcast back during COVID, And when our country was starting to kind of open back up and getting back to things. And even after a year after it kind of opened up, started rolling again, their country was still on 100% lockdown.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how blessed he actually got to travel to the United States. Of course, that was when he got here, quarantined for 2 weeks, stuff like that. And then when he went back to his home country, quarantined for 2 weeks. So all that still was kind of going on. But he said, you just don't realize how blessed you are in the United States, how much freedom you have. And we thought we were being restricted then.
Yeah.
And even though he thought we had a lot of freedom, our restriction was a lot more than what their freedom was.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of things that I think we just literally take for granted.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think we think of defense and security stuff, but it's all those little details.
Well, and I teach 8th and 10th grade. And for some reason, I think those are the most opinionated ages. I don't know what it is about them, but like I'll have them in class, and they'll, especially this year being an election year, they're coming in and they're shouting their opinions. And I just have to stop them and be like, do you realize that in almost any other country, you would be gone for saying that?
Yeah.
And it's not even just politics, anything.
Anything, yeah.
Like you just being able to say whatever you want is just crazy.
Yeah.
Definitely think that those military families deserve all the thanks in the world.
Oh, definitely. And like I say, we real quick to admit that our soldiers are sacrificing, and they are. But so are the moms,
families.
So are the children. The whole family sacrificing.
And even extended family. I mean, like, that's somebody's kid.
Yeah.
That's somebody's grandkid. That's somebody's aunt or uncle or, I mean.
Son-in-law, daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Yeah, niece, nephew, yeah, exactly.
So, moving on from that heavy topic, this hopefully will reach a lot of people. And so some people may not know you in depth. They may know who Homer is, but don't know a lot about you. So I think it would be interesting. We've done a video about this for Facebook, but I had to keep it short and stuff like that. So tell us your testimony. The event. Or the condensed version. Whatever the Lord is leading you to share.
Back in the early 90s, the life that I was leading was not honoring to God. It was more about me. I had actually thought as a father, all I had to do was provide home and security for my family, and that's it. I worked. I basically had 2 jobs, with the farm that I had, and then working full time in the collision repair.
You had a farm?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Had a cattle. I say a farm. We was whopping a whole 10 head of cattle.
It's more than I've ever had.
Plus the bull and the calves off that, but they was 10 female cows.
See, I've known you my whole life, and I'm learning.
So I had that, and it was all time, doing collision repair, and I'd buy a wrecked vehicle and fix that up on the side. That was my own type thing, and always working. So I thought all I had to do was provide, food for the table, cars, education, college, provide all that, and I just thought that was it. And of course, I drank quite a lot. It was a pretty dominant part of my life, and I never was mean or anything like that. It was just I want to have fun.
Yeah.
It was just this was fun. That's what I did. Probably about the last 8 months of my life, I was getting up in the mornings, hungover from the night before. I'd throw up blood, clean up, go to work, take a 6-pack of beer with me to work. Wouldn't eat anything for breakfast, but at lunch I'd drink 1 can of beer. And then at supper, on my way home, then I would drink on the way home. And then when I get home, I would switch over to hard liquor. And I would literally sit on the couch or the recliner until I passed out every night. And that was just about the last 6-8 months of the life before I got saved. But the Lord, during all this time, was really, I didn't know it at the time, but was convicting me. And to be saved, I remember at one day at work, right before I got saved, in the body shops, windshields, the rear view mirrors would fall off cars. There's a metal tab glued to the windshield, and that would fall off, usually in the cold or the heat. And of course, it was in the middle of summer, so the tab fell off. I remember a little old lady, I don't remember her name. She come to the body shop and told me, she rolled down the window. I went out and talked to her, and she told me what she was wanting. And she asked, could she just sit in the car while I did that? Because it's difficult for her to move. I said, absolutely. So I get on the passenger side, and I'm cleaning the glue off, and I'm gluing all this up. Well, once you glue the tabs on, you have to hold it with your thumb for about 5 minutes to let the glue set up. So I was sitting there, and she asked me, she said, so Homer, she said, if you died, would you go to heaven? And I said, well, I don't think that I would, but I hope I would. I was lost. I didn't know what answer to give. And she said, well, can I pray?
She got you with that finger on the tab.
Exactly.
You couldn't go anywhere.
And of course, the Lord knew me as a pretty big redneck, and I still am, but especially then, if a guy had said that, I'd have walked away from him. It wouldn't have mattered. But a little old lady, I mean, can't
Gotta
walk around.
respect the ladies.
I'm there. I'm sweet and try to be sweet to them and stuff. But I was there and had my thumb on that, and she asked me if I was going to heaven, and told her I hoped so, and that kind of stuff. She said, well, can I pray for you over that? Well, I kind of thought when she went to bed.
Yeah.
No, a little frail hand went on my shoulder, and she prayed right on the spot for me.
Oh.
And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, and that just really was hitting home to me, and so I had that on my mind. And
isn't it crazy how the Lord uses, like, that lady probably has no idea that she's like a main part of your testimony.
No, I mean,
That's
there was
crazy.
individual people through my life that had given me gospel tracts and so forth, and they wanted me, and it's always the older people, and made me promise them I'd read it, so I'd read it and get away with it. But after she prayed, probably real quickly after she'd prayed for me, one night, my dad was a police officer in Stone County back in the 70s, so never knew who he was going to have to interact with or if that would come home or not. And so when I was a young kid, I slept with a loaded shotgun beside the bed.
Yeah.
I just, even after I got to be an adult and kids were home, I still slept with a loaded shotgun. Well, in this dream, somebody knocked on the door in the middle of the night, and I grabbed a shotgun and go up to the door, and I flung the door open. And there was two figures standing there. And people are going to think I'm, one of those fruitcakes, but this actually happened. So there was two figures standing there, and they were very muscular, broad shoulders, but they didn't have heads. And they were both in black robes, and it was with some kind of red trim. And they said, you need to come with us. Well, I'm pretty dense, so I don't get scared a whole lot, but that scared me. So I slammed the door, and I turned around, and they were in the living room.
No.
With a very clear voice in unison, they said, you need to come to hell with us.
Oh my goodness.
And so I actually started screaming. And Amy woke me up because I was screaming in the bed. She woke me up. She said, are you okay? And I said, I just had a bad dream. She wanted to tell her about it. So I don't remember what it was. I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And rolled over and went to sleep. Or she went to sleep. I didn't. I was terrified.
You were up.
Literally terrified. I was wide awake. Well, we got up that morning. I was lost. But Sunday was about the only day I didn't do a whole lot of work. I tried to spend it with the family, even though I'd drink. At that point, I was drinking through the course of the day, but tried to at least do family stuff that day. She said, so what are we going to do today? I said, we won't go to church. And she said, where? I said, I don't know. She said, well.
Did she have that pause where she was like, we're going to church?
I'm sure. Yeah. When I said I want to go to church, and I'm sure I've never asked her what she really thought when I said that, but.
I had friends like that growing up where they would be like, I'm going to come to church with you tonight. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, she said, where are we going? I told her, I don't care. I don't know.
Yeah.
She said, well, we'll go to Lone Star.
Aw, special.
She said, that's where I was raised at. I'll go over there. I said, okay. Of course, Granny Murphy was coming over here then. And so, of course, Brother Bronberry was the pastor at the time, and he was preaching, and I felt like I needed to go talk to him about something, but I didn't have a clue what it was.
Yeah.
And so I was miserable. Well, I know it's conviction.
I remember that feeling.
And the next Sunday rolled back around, same thing. We wound up, and I was told her, go to church, but I'm going to go to Lone Star. Didn't like it. And so
scared of that conviction.
It was conviction. And so we went to my brother-in-law, Daryl, pastors at Blue Mountain and Timbo. And so we went to church up there, my sister and him. Same thing. I thought I need to go talk to Daryl about something, but I still didn't really understand what it was. And the third Sunday, same scenario, got up, let's go to church. And we didn't go to Timbo, we didn't go back over here. I said, I don't know where we're going to go. She said, well, why don't we go to Woodrow? They've sent us some cards, they've sent us some flowers, and they've invited us. And I thought, you know what? I remember Maxine Logan told me one time in the Woodrow store, pointed her little finger at me. Now, she was a bigger lady. She pointed, she said, you need to have those babies in church.
Oh.
Now, if that had been a guy, that wouldn't have went over
right.
Well. But I took it and went on. Well, I remember, I thought, okay. So we went to church up there, and I was lost. There's no denying it. I walked in the church, and I thought, I'm at home. There was Brother Cherry up there in his blue jeans, cowboy boots, western shirt with a bolo on.
Yep.
And I was in. And he preached Father's Day weekend. He preached on the responsibilities of a man, a godly man in the home.
I got chills right now.
And I thought, I need this for my kids.
That's so
Well,
cool how God works that stuff
It wasn't
out.
but about 3 weeks later, and I thought I didn't need it for my kids. I needed it for myself.
Yep.
I still didn't know exactly what all the details of salvation, but at this point I had learned enough to know that I needed to go confess my sins, invite Jesus into my heart. And I remember standing back in the pew, and I was the typical out of the Lord's way person under conviction, and I was white knuckling.
White knuckle.
Hanging on that pew, and my knuckles were tight, ringing in my ear. And for all of our deer hunters, they understand the buck fever. I had my heartbeat pounded in my ears and ringing and so forth, and I knew what I needed to do. I let go of that pew, and as soon as I let go of that pew and took a step out,
It's like you're
it all
floating.
went away.
Yeah.
And I know I went down, took Brother Terry by the hand. I confessed my sins, asked Jesus in my heart. But if I'd have died before I got to the altar to verbalize that, I'd have went to heaven.
Yeah.
Because I'd give the world up, and I was going to Jesus.
It's not really the words you say. It's the decision to go do it.
And like I said, I still went up there, confessed, and admitted to Jesus what I needed. And I stood up and got saved. And I remember all the things the devil was telling me. All these people he said, oh, Eddie Hip, he's a good friend of mine today. He was our basketball coach at Westside for years. And he was going to church there. And the devil kept telling me, Eddie Hip's going to laugh at you. You go up there, and he was one of the first ones to come out and give me a hug and tell me how proud he was of the decision I made.
Yeah.
And about 2 weeks later, I guess it was, the men had gathered at church before the preacher. Not all the men, but some of the men and the preacher would gather up in a Sunday school classroom, and they'd have prayer over the church before church started. Mm-hmm. And they asked me, Lloyd Stubbs asked me if I would be willing to go back. I said, I'd love that. So we get in there, and before it began, Lloyd said, I'm going to say something before we start. He said, look over, and he pointed at me. He said, how many prayers have we sent up in this room for this guy?
That's so cool.
I had no idea Woodrow Baptist Church was praying for me. But there was a group of individuals that I had known of but didn't know them that it was praying for me. Yep. And what a blessing it was. And of course, I've hit the ground running, and the Lord eventually called me into the ministry, and through the process of time, here we are. Yep. God has just been good and convenient, or not convenient, but been blessed and watched over and protected every step of the way.
And now you're right back where you were scared to be the first time.
Exactly. I think about that. I've thought about that over a couple of different times, how scared and terrified I was and miserable I was my first Sunday here to church. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of wild. And then here we are later.
Circle of life.
25 years later, here we are.
I didn't know that about the dream. I always am hesitant when people mention that, and I need to hear them out, because sometimes it just, I don't know. To me, sometimes when they say I have a vision, I'm like, okay. But I get what you're saying where it sounds crazy, but because when I was in high school, I was, believe it or not, I was very shy in the sense of I didn't want to talk to people outside of my circle. Yeah. And so I remember to this day, I had a dream that I was in my high school and something had happened and I couldn't talk anymore. I was trying to talk to everybody and couldn't speak. And I know somebody clear as day said, you better use your voice while you have it. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And so I woke up and that was the point where I was like, I've got to start being more bold. And so I do think God still uses dreams.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. I'll be for years I wouldn't tell anybody that story because I thought, oh, that's kind of out there, but it actually happened to me. I'm like you, I hadn't thought of it until you said that, but God gave me a voice. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, I used to think he just took advantage of the dream that I had. Yeah. I think he sent me the dream. Yeah. Now the more I've thought about it and as I've grown, he sent me that dream.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to, that's your experience and you can share it, and it really doesn't matter if everybody else thinks you're crazy or not. Yeah. You're telling what happened to you. The Lord knows that it happened, and he'll use it on the ones that need to hear that. So that's interesting. I didn't know a lot of that testimony. It's a very powerful testimony. So now that you are here at Lone Star, which you've been here a year, almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years in January.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 years in January. So.
That's crazy. So what are let's just talk about our church in general. So we're growing. Yep. We've got some really cool new things happening. We have, our youth group is growing, which I'm part of the youth group. So obviously that's where my mind goes. our youth group has started coming to church on Sundays, which years ago had been my prayer. Like, I remember it was, for some reason, it was just so heavy on my heart that no kids were in church on Sunday. And I remember one Sunday you preached on being faithful for the few things. And man, that one got me. And I chose one of our youth kids. You can probably guess which one it is.
Yes, I can.
And I was like, okay, God has given me one kid. Of all the 17 that come on Wednesday nights, there's one. And like, I was like, all right, God, I gave everything to him. And I was like, I'm going to pour into this one kid. But now we've got 3 or 4 of our youth that come regularly on Sundays, and they bring their big families.
Yeah, when you mention youth, you're talking about our Faith With It program on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
Because we have a large number of kids that don't come on Sundays mornings. So but there are getting to be more of those coming on Sunday mornings.
And I think it helps that some of them are bigger families, and like to me, the answered prayer there, the big answered prayer is the parents. Yeah. Like I'm so excited, which I'm a little selfish because they're pretty close to like mine and Austin and Hannah and they're on our youth committee now. And so it's just fun to have somebody that's coming in and eager, but they're bringing their kids. And now my kid has somebody to grow up with and there's multiple of them. And we've had more people join the church, I feel like, in the last couple of years than we've had in a while. And we've got visitors coming left and right. And
we're back with our Kingdom Kids on Sunday mornings.
Children's church.
Yeah. I was actually talking with a lady this morning, and she said she was bragging because she got to go help out in the nursery last week. Oh. She said they had so many young people in the nursery. I just went back and helped them. And I thought, what a blessing that is.
I know. I love that. I was worried when Austin and I got pregnant with Isaiah. I was so scared that because some of my best memories growing up there was like 7 or 8 of us kids that grew up together, and they're like strong bonds for my friendship. Now they got me through high school. And I was just like, Isaiah's not going to have that at all. And it just tore me up that he was going to be the only kid, and he was going to be like him and Laura's were like the only 2 kids. And it's just like God heard that and he was like, I got you. And now like there was like 4 or 5 kids in the like nursery age. In the nurseries, And then we had 3 or 4 down here for children's church, and the older ones were upstairs. Like it's awesome.
God is really blessing us. And we have some younger families that hopefully will make a decision, go ahead and take the next step to get a little bit more. That
have been here quite often. I just think that's awesome. And I think we've got a lot of cool events with our church. I know we've done Fall Family Fun Day for a while, but I like some of the things that you and Miss Amy have kind of changed up with, like the having Bible stories. So it's not just, hey, come play games and get candy, but there's like a Jesus aspect to it, like there should be. And VBS is just, I live for VBS. Oh, yeah. So I'm all about it.
And VBS will continue to be fun as long as Derek and I are competing to see who's the funniest.
Oh, gosh.
I remember telling
as long as you don't take your head off with a scooter.
But of course, we have a monthly prayer meeting.
Yes.
First Sunday of the month, we have prayer meeting on Sunday nights. Not a preaching service or a Bible study. It is actually a prayer meeting. In fact, Danny, one of the guys, him and his mom come last one.
Sat in the middle.
Sat in the middle. He told me, he said, that's the first time I've ever done that. I've been going to church my whole life. He said, that's the first time I've ever been a part of that. And one of our prayer focus back a few months ago was, Lord, send us whoever you want, whether they're 8 or 80. Lord, send to us somebody that we can minister to.
We got a couple church members that can prove that 80, 90, 95, you can have all the energy in the world.
I wouldn't want to keep up with somebody.
No. Now, I like of course, I grew up here in this church. And so, like, I can remember we would have, when something was happening, we'd just come, we'd circle up and we'd pray. But I like the way that we do it, where there's things that we pray about each time, but there's also that separate time where, because it got me through some hardships with work and with, Isaiah, and when we had some scares when I was pregnant, and being able to go with the women and just share that, because it was a smaller group. It was women, so they understood. And I'm sure the same thing for the men. I know Austin has talked about how nice it is that he could mention, I'm a dad, I'm a new dad. Please pray for me, and know that you guys have been there. And so I love the prayer meetings and the fifth Sunday fun days that we do. We had game night, we had fireworks. We had a singing service.
Yeah,
I just think those are so fun. The fellowship there is awesome.
That's the thing. I think a lot of times I know and I fully understand that people don't come to church for the preacher.
Yeah.
Maybe one Sunday they might if he's encouraged them and stuff like that, and but they're going to stay at church because of relationships have been.
Yes, I think.
And if the church itself doesn't have a good relationship, good fellowship, I mean, being a Christian doesn't mean we're sticking in the mud. We got to sit there and just look at the preacher for 45 minutes.
No,
it's about worship the Lord and having fellowship and fun with each other.
Yeah.
And just living, experiencing salvation through Christ and living a life through Christ.
Yeah.
And you know, just the fun that we try to have. It needs to be Christ-centered, quite obviously.
Right.
But it's about having fun. It's not a job. It's not a task. It's
And
not something, we go do. It's something that we want to do.
Right. And I think that our church, I think that's one of our strong points is I think we're very welcoming, but not in it's your job to welcome people kind of way. Like you never know who's going to come up and welcome you. It's just whoever conveniently sees you first. Yeah. And sometimes they'll flock, but and it hasn't always been that way. I think I think the Lord has done a lot of work on our church, but I do think that I've been here my whole life, so I know everybody, but it's not like you said, it's Sunday, we have to go to church. It's like, I can't wait to get there. And, I need to tell somebody this because this happened this week and I know they'll find it funny too. And that's what I try to capture with those videos that I post is, we have some serious ones. Like I interviewed you, we talked about places to serve in the church, but we also have, the funny videos of, I have one posted of Zach falling in like one of those tubes, and it's just, we hid baby Jesuses around your office, which they're probably still there.
One of my favorite memories.
But I think I think our church is fun. And I think a lot of people have fun in different ways.
And it's, life is not meant to be humdrum.
No.
Good grief, we work, 40 to 60, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
And church shouldn't be just something we've got to do through the course of the week. It should be a part of our life.
Right.
Well, is it a mundane part of our life or is it a fun part of our life? Something that we enjoy and look forward to.
Yeah.
And I think we're, in fact, that's one of the things I really wanted to work on was make sure we had good fellowship before we can move forward. Mm-hmm. It's not going to do no good for everybody to get out and knock on doors and let's invite and we have 25 people come if it's just humdrum.
If we're just all sitting in our pews.
Yeah. But we're getting ready to transition into this upcoming year, transition to a few other things, move on. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited about that part of it, but it's just the fellowship is something that I enjoy. If I have not missed, I've taken a couple of Sundays off because of preaching and got to see a couple of my grandkids baptized on Sunday morning. So that's pretty awesome. But I can tell you, when we're not here, I told Anna, I said, I'm just miserable. I just want to see her, baby. And she'd even commented, she said, you didn't get to preach this morning. Yeah. I just didn't get to see so-and-so.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see some folks. That's what I like to see. I love to just visit people.
And I think it's funny how we have fun in all aspects, like Sunday morning preaching, you'll crack a joke or Amy will get a dress or we got the dress count going, or like youth. We had a video the other day of Zach. When Zach tries to teach, I'll have a little funny that I just kind of spill out there. And then now the whole lesson's for a few seconds. Or our upcoming choir, which I don't think you were there for our practice. We got a song. Y'all got to check it out. It's our Christmas special. There's one song that came on and we're up there worshiping Jesus, but in a fun way. So it's not like we have to sing, like this. Like we're up there like, and like having fun with it, but still worshiping Jesus, but with that joy, And so I do think that's a very important part of church.
Yes, it is. It's an important part of life. Mm-hmm. You go through life and never laugh, never have fun, you just miss out on life. Mm-hmm. And the same thing's in church. If you're not laughing and having fun, and then just, enjoying each other's fellowship, you just miss out on a lot.
So last but not least, this is our first episode of our podcast. So what do you anticipate from this? Like, where do you want to see it go? What do you want to happen with it?
Well, I would like to see folks kind of get to know us a little bit more, that maybe might not come up here on Sunday mornings or Wednesdays or whatever, or reach out to some of us. Maybe they'll watch this from the privacy of their home and think, you know what? That faith is crazy. I'd like to go up there. I would like for some people to kind of get to know us personally,
Yeah.
but I'd also like to be able to, with some of the things that I know you shared with me that you're planning on doing in the future, like people just to think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And just like what we was talking about with the military families, just talking about that a little bit. And I never thought about praying for those families in that way, or, just challenge us to think a little bit, and of course, and think about some scriptures, I like the challenge to think.
Think deeper about things.
Think deeper a little bit about it, or maybe from a different perspective a little bit different understanding on it. I watch, there's plenty of websites and all kinds of videos and podcasts and stuff where preachers can just sit down and watch a video and then go preach it if they want to.
Right.
And I was telling somebody the other day about that. I said, well, I get a lot of milk from a lot of places, but I churn my own butter.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of those things, but then let the Holy Spirit speak to me and do whatever. But there's so much out there, and they challenge me. They make me look at something from a different perspective than what I normally do. I mean, I think sometimes we get tunnel vision, and then when you can look at other people's angles, and that's what I'm hoping this does, is you get people to think something a little bit differently.
Yeah.
A little bit different angle, and it's an interesting perspective, a young person's perspective versus somebody a little more older than a young person. But then you can get somebody older than I am, or younger than you are. The perspective is I think is just awesome. The way they look at things and the way they handle things and stuff, it's all an important part of our growing spiritually. And that's what I hope this does.
Yeah.
Is it challenges people to think, get to know us a little bit more, but then challenge them to look at things a little bit differently.
I'm excited to get to know people more in my own church that I grew up with. You sit down and you almost like interview each other, and you learn a lot. But I also think this will be the cool thing about the internet is we could have people watching from other countries, and it's just crazy how that gets out there. But also a new place to serve, with younger families coming in with the changing times, like maybe somebody has another idea for something like this, or can make this better than me with my little tiny Amazon purchase and cell phone. So I just think it'll be a cool, and maybe some of our youth will grow up and get into somewhere to serve.
They get involved with it regularly, or figure out a place that they can serve and be with.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Now we're talking about that. You get thinking about church, and I think, okay, maybe I could go to there and find some place to serve. I think sometimes we go to church, too many times we go to church and want to be served.
Yes.
Instead of actually serving.
Well, and I think that's a misunderstanding with churches. You go and you visit a church, or you sit in the pew and you're like, I'm not getting anything out of it. But what are you putting into it?
Yeah.
You don't get that fellowship until you're one-on-one with people. I mean,
exactly
the
right.
memories, a lot of the memories that I have, or the fun that we have, doesn't come from sitting in the pew Sunday morning while you talk to us. It's from participating in choir practice, from planning a youth rally, from getting VBS ready, or helping in the kitchen. Like, it's where you serve, and that's where you get the memories and the friendships, and those are also the people you learn to lean on, that you grow closer to. And that's what Zach and I have tried to tell our youth. Zach has this saying of building your brick wall for life, and each person that you form a relationship with is just another brick in your wall, and the more bricks you have, the stronger it'll be. But
and larger it's gonna be.
Yes, but he tells them your brick wall isn't gonna stand if you don't have like the cement, which is the time you spend together. And I think that's a big misunderstanding, is you're just supposed to fit in somewhere. But I mean, you will fit in somewhere, but you've got to get to know people, pour into it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, service is a big part of getting into a church.
Well, it always makes you feel good to do something for somebody else.
Right.
And when you can minister to them in some way or another, then it's a blessing for you too.
Yeah.
Plus you're heading out. And that's something that Tom mentioned just slightly about some events upcoming next year, some of the things we're going to do. I really want us to kind of steer to where we're actually getting involved real locally if we can. I'd like for our church to become something that if something was happening and all of a sudden Lone Star Baptist Church was no longer here, I'd want the community to miss the church.
To notice, yeah.
Wait a minute, I can't no longer do this because these folks from Lone Star aren't here. I want us to really get involved locally. I mean, how many times did Jesus tell us to go home? In fact, the sermon we looked at just a couple of weeks ago, where Jesus went to to heal the demonic man out of living in the cemetery. You know, after he kind of come to his mind and everything like, he's sitting at the feet of Jesus, Jesus getting ready to leave, and he said, Jesus, I want to go with you. And Jesus says, no, go home.
Yeah.
I want you to go home. Tell them what
Go
good
to your
things you are.
hometown and tell them.
You know, so there's nothing wrong with the bigger mission trips and so forth, and we're involved in those things. But there's also, we think sometimes, why not build a wheelchair ramp for somebody at home?
Yeah. This is our mission
Why
field.
not? Yeah, this is our mission field. Yep. And it starts outside the door on Sunday mornings. And that includes,
I've thought that before, you know, God placed me in my family, in my school, in my church, in my town for a reason. Like he wants me here.
Exactly.
So, speaking of that sermon, have you done any more research on my question?
I have not, actually. I haven't got anything more convincing other than what we talked a little bit about.
This is going to be a thing now. I'm going to start looking for in-depth questions.
Well, that is one that is broader than I actually have some books laid out on my desk at the house, and I thought, okay, I think those of them maybe have just information. So I don't know if they're going to provide me any more or not, but it's definitely been an interesting.
I'm like that student that the teachers hate because I ask the questions and they're like, I don't know.
Well, I tell you, when I don't know, I'll see if I can figure it out, and I keep going back. Well, my first answer was probably the narrow one.
Yeah.
But I think there's something bigger there.
Yeah.
You know, that's something about the Word of God is sometimes I think we read too much into it when it's really that simple of an answer.
Yeah.
And that may be one of those things right there. It's literally that simple of an answer, and just take it and run with it. So, but I'm going to do some more. I'm not done with it by no means, digging on
Everybody out there wondering what we're talking about, just come to church and we'll tell you.
That's right.
So, to wrap it up, we'll just talk about when they can come to church.
Okay.
So, Sunday mornings.
Absolutely.
We got Sunday school for, how many classes of Sunday school do we have?
Oh.
They're kind of broken into ages. I know we have one for young adults. We have one for youth, for kids, there's a women's study. There's like I don't know what you would call Grant's youth. It's just like adult 1, and then there's an adult 2.
Yeah, we call them adult 1, 2, and 3, so forth. I
It's
think we
just, they're...
1, 2, 3, 4. Since I started that other Sunday school class, 5.
Yeah.
And which we need to build on, by the way. We'd love for you to come with that. That age group right now are probably 30 to 50 right now, in that age with kids that are in school and so forth. And Austin's teaching one that's got some...
It's like the college and career, young career.
adults and stuff in there, which is pretty awesome, that class. And so we have a Sunday school, and there's no rule or regulation to come. You don't have to go to one over the other.
No.
You know, if you're 80 and want to go into with Austin's where all the 20-year-olds and younger are at, well, that's probably all right.
We'll take you.
but you know, try to make it to where you're comfortable, where you like to go and be. And you know, that is something, you know, you take and you have some folks like you in Austin with a young person. You're going to run into the same problems. You all have toddlers. You're going to have some of the same issues.
Same place in life.
Where somebody like myself, I don't have toddlers, and my situation is different. And you know, obviously 30 years later, it's different than what you're facing. So, but I think for every stage of life that we're in, we have Sunday school class.
Yeah, and there's that starts at 9:45.
9:45.
Unless you're in our class with Austin, and then it starts at 10.
Yeah.
Because our young adults don't ever get here on time. And then the big service is 10:45.
10:45.
We have worship, and then we have our sermon. Sunday nights starts at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
And then Wednesdays is a little different because we eat at 6.
Yeah, eat at 6.
And then the kids and the youth start at 6:35, but the adults don't start till 7.
Yeah.
And then we all kind of get out
we're
around.
trying to clean up the kitchen and straighten up and stuff like that. And
We all
try
kind
to
of get
help
out
them.
around 7:45, more like 8, but we'll say 7:45. So if you're in the area and you've never checked us out, come by one of those times. This is going to be on Spotify, but it's also check out our website, which is LoneStarBaptist.org.
I think that's right.
And Brother Homer's contact information is on there. So is our youth pastors. So is that's weird to say because he's my younger brother. So is our worship leaders, which is also weird to say because he's my husband. So all the contact information is there, and our address and our service times are on there. So this has been fun.
Yes, it has been fun. And for those of you watching out, check out our website. Miss Faith's been working on that the last couple of. I've been working on it for over a year, and it's just went like a snail's pace. And she took it over, and she's done more in a month than what I've done in almost a year working on it. So it's been great. And it's looking great. It's looking wonderful. It looks like it's alive and actually moving and doing things now.
Trying.
And I have some ideas that, I'll be discussing about some things I'd like to have for the year end, and then put some stuff on there for the year beginning.
I like our little calendar. Did you see the calendar?
Yes, I did see that. I just love that. I love that. So we'll expand on that and build upon that and stuff like that. So
let me ask you, who should we have on for our next episode?
I don't know. I'm not for sure. I hadn't even thought about that, actually.
I'm just thinking it may come to me. The Lord will send me a name.
Lord will send me
I'm thinking somebody funny like Brother Kid. We'll learn so much from some of them people.
yeah, that would be a good one if you could
learn lots about fishing.
Yeah.
We can talk about fishing for men.
Fishing for men, that's exactly right. It's and when you talk about having different people on here, and everybody has different interests, different likes, different talents, different abilities, and if we can get anybody in and just we'll
get them all.
Get them all. That's right.
We'll go through the checklist of members till we can get down to Isaiah, my little 1-year-old.
Yeah.
He won't say much, but he'd probably be entertaining.
Yep.
All right. Well, I don't know when we'll film the next one. Maybe one a month, one every other week. But we will see you next time. And thanks for talking.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
All right.